In fact, I remember that the reason I chose law was so that I could become a lawyer and sue my father to court and put him in prison. Because of all the things he did to us, of all the pain he made us go through, of all the things he did to me as his daughter, and then the height of it was abandoning me. And my best course in law was then, I was doing diploma in law in Olabisi University, was human rights. Hello everyone, my name is Janet Alalade. I'm a baker, I'm an event service provider. I also have an initiative for young entrepreneurs in Ekiti State, which is Ekiti Event Vendors. I'm passionate about helping people become a better version of themselves. I'm also a lover of Christ. I love to sing, I love music. So today I will be sharing the story of my forgiving journey about my father with you. The road that I took was a very tough one to forgive my father. So, and I know that my generation, let me put it that way, for those of us who are in our early to late 30s to 40, 45, and even some people that are in their late 20s, have had funny experiences with their parents while growing up. And of course, we're in the Nigerian society where anything can happen. So I'm from a polygamous home, and my own kind of polygamous home is quite unique. It's not the one where everybody was living together or my father had like 10 wives or thereabouts, but I'm the first of my father. I'm from a family of 4, but I'm the first child of my father. I have an elder sister. I have younger half-sisters. And I remember that the story I knew about my dad was that he was waiting. His first marriage did not work out because his wife called him barren and divorced him. And of course he met my mom, and then I came to be. And for that, I looked like the egg, like the eniju of my dad. And in fact, my naming ceremony was as if they were doing a wedding, because I saw the picture and I'm like, was it me they were naming, or it was another thing? It was that I was that cherished by my father, and he practically would take me anywhere with him. If I'm sick, he would rather not I stay in the house or go to school. He used to be a medical doctor when he was alive. He would take me along with him, you know. But I realized that at age 5 or thereabouts, I knew that something was wrong in the family already, and I knew my dad had started to, you know, misbehave. This was someone that I love plantain chips. Even till now that I've grown, that's like my best plantain chips. Anything do you can carry me. So every time he comes to pick me or we have to go out together, he will go and chatter it. Don't tell your mom that I bought chips for you. We had that real father-daughter relationship, and you know, sometimes coming back from school, he will always pass in front of the plantain chip seller because he knows that if he doesn't buy it, I will cry. And at age 5, I realized that okay, something was getting wrong in the family. Of course, I got to the point where I think I was 6 years old or 7, where my mom realized that okay, it looks like our children could comprehend some things. Then she called us, and then she told me that my father probably has somebody outside. And at this point, when she called us to tell us this, my dad will tell us that he's traveling. We'll go maybe like for 3 weeks, come back. Then it became once a month. He will travel and come home maybe like once in a month. Like that, it started, you know, aggravating to going for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. I think when I was in GSS 1 or 2, it really became bad. That he came home maybe just twice in 1 year. And I was like, okay, what's going on? So at this point when my mom called us, she showed us some letters. We read some letters that he wrote, and of course something she had seen, for her to know that, oh, my dad was already seeing another woman. And she told me that whatever happens, I should just know that she loves us. She's never going to neglect her children. She'll take care of us, and then my dad loves us. So at the back of my mind, I said, okay, benefit of doubt, let's keep going on this journey. Of course, it became worse, because at the point where I wanted to get into boarding house, my dad struggled to drop money for my school. And struggling, not in the sense of the fact that he didn't have money, the fact that love that he had for me or my mom or whatever was gone. And I was trying to think that what happened between then and now, in the space of how many years of, you know, having your loving father around you, the bond, the friendship, the time you spend together. He struggled to drop that. And of course, when you go to boarding house, or maybe especially when you go to university, you know that first year is like Christmas for you. Your parents are still all over. For those who had loving parents, you know, they will come check up on you in school, visiting days and all. I think he came for 2 of my visiting days actually. After that, I'm not sure I ever saw my dad throughout my boarding house anymore. We only used to talk on phone, write letters to each other. Sometimes I would write him letters, he would not even reply the letters. So at this point, and while growing up, God speaks to me through dreams. I got to a point where I had a dream that my dad was coming to pack all the things in the house, and then there was no phone, there was no GSM, there was no, I was in boarding house, so there was no call center. So So I wrote a letter to my mom, told her how the dream went, the whole scenario. He came with somebody, they were all laughing and all of that. I'm an Igbo girl, so when I was younger, we used to go to the village once in a while with my dad, and we used to be the ajebo in the midst of everybody because of the nature of my mom. She was rugged, but at the same time she was sophisticated. So I told her everything, and of course it happened just exactly the way I wrote it. My dad came, and when he came, he was expecting not to meet my mom in the house, and his plan was that he had come with a 911 car or tipper or truck, whatever, to come and pack all the things. And I know that my mom was quite an independent woman as a single person, and I think I took after her. She had a lot of things. She had loads of properties already before she got married. So the plan was even to come and pack both his own property and my mom's property, and then just leave the house empty. So we will now come inside the house and meet that house empty. Thank God for the Joseph Alala. I saw the dream, and my mom told me that exactly how I wrote it was what happened. He brought one of my cousins with him. They were, of course, my mom doesn't understand Igbo, and they were speaking Igbo, you know, laughing, making jest, doing all sorts and everything. At this point, or right before this scenario happened, I remember that there was a particular Christmas that my dad had the guts to bring the other woman and her children to the house, and he told my mom that, oh, she was a nurse in his hospital. Of course, my mom knew she wasn't a nurse, and my mom knew that those children were his children, but she didn't say anything. But she told me before they came. I met them at the door, like I just passed by them and just said, good afternoon. I didn't look at their faces, and then she told me to go and greet her family friend. I already had a feeling that something was wrong in that atmosphere. He told me to go and greet her family friend, that she was going to tell them the time they should send me back to the house. And of course that happened. So back to where my dad came to pack all of the things in the house, and of course I was in boarding house. I was worried because while I wrote the letter, my mom did not reply. So apparently by the time she got the letter, that same week was when my dad actually came to come do all of his funny things. So there was a whole lot happening. Thankfully, we had meet and break or something, and then we went to the house, and there was back and forth arguments. My mom kept telling him, how would you come and pack all the things in the house? What do you want your daughter to live with, or whatever? In fact, she got to the point where she was fighting for the couch, saying that at least you should leave something for your child to sit on in the house. And you know, all of that went on and on. Now in the midst of all of these forward messages that I'm talking about, I remember that there's been back and forth arguments. The day I developed hatred for my dad was the day I saw him lay his hands on my mom. That was the day I hated him. Like, it was just I didn't even think it twice, because I really can't remember what happened. And then I remember my mom screamed at myself and my sister and told us to go lock ourselves up in the room. I was the stubborn one, so I opened the door back, went in the middle of my dad and mom, screaming, oh daddy, leave her, you know, as a child. And he like used his hand to push me away. My mom was on the floor and he was trying to box, and I was screaming and yelling for help. In where we were living, the way my mom brought us up, we don't let people into our lives or our homes or our flats or anything. We don't even go to greet our neighbors and so want to go and play with them, just once in a while when she's going to say hello to them. So I remember that the landlord of our store was in the second compound, came with a gun, because everybody already knew what was going on, and you know, came with a gun. Some boys in the compound, you know, came up and broke the door and were shouting, "Doctor, Kiniko, Kiniko." And the reason I think I said my dad was the fact that I realized that my mom was actually pregnant when that happened, and then she lost the pregnancy. Go to the hospital, they had mended up their lovey-dovey. She was smiling, and I think I asked her, "Why is your stomach flat?" And she said nothing, she ate too much, and maybe because she had gone, so she just, you know, tried to. So I told her, I said, "Mommy, but I think there was a baby in you." That was when she busted in tears and said that the baby has gone home. So that was the point where I developed serious hatred for him. He had become an irresponsible father. He will not send money to the house, he will not take care of his child, he will not think about our upkeep. He will even come home and expect that my mom will cook for him without putting more. I saw everything happening, but of course, as a child in an African society, you don't have the right to like open your mouth to talk in that kind of situation. So I was all quiet and all of that about the whole situation. And I remember that one of the other reasons why I now developed hatred for him was because in the process of becoming irresponsible while I was younger, I remember there was a day I was really, really sick, and then my mom told him that she didn't want me to stay at home because we had someone from my dad's family in the house. He was a bigger cousin, but we called him uncle. He was around, and I was really sick that I could not even stand. So he kept saying that he's a doctor. He knows that he will take care of his child. My mom should not worry about me, that he's going to take care of me. And I remember that I was lying down on the couch, and I could barely move because my temperature was really high. He told my cousin, my big cousin, and then he said, oh, please help me watch over that child. I want to quickly shower and then take her to the clinic. Of course, within the space of having to take care of take his bath, I got abused sexually by my cousin. But I could not even say anything because I was practically lifeless there, and I could see a blurry picture of he fondling with me, when playing with my private part, but I didn't have the strength to even say anything. By the time I got well and I could talk, and I told my dad that, I think I saw this particular uncle touching me and trying to do something funny with me. I said, but I didn't have that strength. Because an Igbo man, my dad said, "Ta, get out." In an Igbo donation, he said, "Ta, get out. What are you saying from your mouth? What kind of nonsense is that?" That was what he used to answer me. So I think that alone was the right step. It was easy for me to just hate him with the fact that I saw him play his hands on my mom, and that was how the journey of hatred started. My dad would call, and the conversations we have on phone, when he's done talking to my mom, he will always call my mom, because then I didn't have a phone, of course, and he will insist that he wanted to talk to me. We never had a straight conversation. We never, because at that point I had disgust for him already. We will always fight. I will always be rude to him on the phone, because in my mind I'm like, what do you want to tell me? Like, you don't even deserve to be my father anymore. I remember also that when I think I was 6 years old, myself and my mom were going for a church program. We had an accident. The brake of the bus failed, and we got lucky that somebody picked us and took us to the house, because my mom kept saying they should take us home. Since my dad was a medical doctor, there's no point going to other hospitals. He had his own hospital, and the most disgusting thing ever was that at the point where we were in pain, my dad still had the guts to go and see the other woman, and he still came home late. So a lot of things like scenario had happened, and I'm like, what the heck? Like, even if you wanted to do shino, or maybe they adjust you or something, won't you even first take care of your immediate family before you even go out there to do whatever rubbish you want to do? And the fact that we had an accident, who was going to watch over us in the house? Because my elder sister was not even around. She was in boarding house at that point. I was still young. And I'm like, so every time he calls and he's talking to me, oh, face your studies, in my mind, like, you don't even have the right to even talk about my study, because did you pay my fee? I was that rude to him. You didn't pay my school fees. You did not send money. He will say, oh, I sent money for your provision. And in my mind, like, how much is the money? Money that my mom had already covered up, saved to pay fee, to buy food stuff, to do a whole lot for me. You are coming to brag on maybe a 5,000 naira you sent or something. So I was just disgusted with him. And that journey went on and on and on like that. And I'll never forget, there was a particular day that I really went all out for him. It got to the point where he said he was going to lay a curse on me, and I told him to go ahead. And then he said that, do I know that the Bible says you should honor your father and mother? And I remember I replied him back and said, do you know the same Bible says that parents do not provoke your children to anger? I was angry at him. I was angry at the fact that he abandoned me. He left me. He made me, I don't want to use the word suffer, but the affection of a father that I enjoyed, it was cut short, like too early for me. And you expect me to be all okay with that? And I got so angry to the point that now I have to share my father with some people that I've never even met in my life. It was very annoying. So I had my younger ones there with him, because when it came to Padlo, they said all of us were going to village together, and my mom insisted that she's not going to raise her child in the village. That because even though as much as she's from the interior of Ibadan, she had vowed that the same way her father raised them is the same way she was going to raise her children, to be very learned, sophisticated, to be exposed. So that was what caused the fights. Of course, he packed whatever he wanted to pack from the house at that point, and then that all went on and on. So every time he called me, he would always taunt me with the fact that it was because I didn't follow him. That was why he wasn't sending money to me. That when I'm tired and my mom cannot take care of us anymore, I will run to come and meet him at the village. And I told him, I said, I will not run to come and meet you. He said, since you have decided to stay with your mom, then I should stay with her and deal with whatever comes my way. So I was just angry with him. The other lady, to add the audacity, he sent her to come and visit me at my boarding house. I was mad. In fact, I was screaming in my guidance office, and my guidance had to calm me down and say, oh, Janet, calm down. And then she called me the name my dad would call me, and I told her, you have no guts, or you have no right to call me that way. You're not my father. I don't have a relationship with you. I was just angry. Meanwhile, don't forget, I was a child of God, but I was angry. And I told my guardian that she must not come to visit me again. In her life, she should not come. Of course, this journey went on. I already knew that whatever happened, my dad was probably under the influence of something else. It wasn't natural anymore. Because sometimes he will call and he'll say he's all alone, and he'll go all, oh, I miss you, my daughter, I wish you were here with me. It looks like you're the only one who understands me. Even though I was young, he knew that we used to speak to ourselves without having to open up our mouths to talk to each other. And the next day he calls and is the other way saying all sorts, you know. He will compare me to my mom. And what even made me now hate him was that every time I do something wrong, my mom would tell me, and I hated him the more. Like, why am I taking the blame and the heat for this man? And she will say, hey, in English, it means that's how your father also does. Or you better be careful. That's how your dad also started, and then until he now swayed away. So there was always something that had to do with him, with me, in my mom's face. It looked like I was in the middle. When he calls, he will say, oh, that's how your mom does. So I was more like, I was put in a dilemma state because I was practically in the middle. When my mom is ranting, she will say, oh, that's how your dad does. When my dad is talking to me, he will always say, oh, that is how your mom does too. It went on and on like that to the point of, getting to enter university. My dad would come to Ibadan. We were living in Ibadan then. He was now in Enugu. My dad would come to Ibadan and would not come to the house, but he would tell my mom. At this point now, I'd left secondary school. Of course, throughout my secondary school, he wasn't there. Like, he wasn't there. My major, let's say, celebrations, moving from GSS3 to SS1, he wasn't there. My valedictory service, he wasn't there. Like, he was practically not there anymore. I practically just made up my mind that I didn't have a father. If I got to the point where people asked about my father, I'll say my father was dead. That was what I used to tell people. That it's just my mom and my sister, and I didn't have a father. I already proclaimed or pronounced him dead in my mind. So I remember that at the point of trying to get a JAMB form, it looked like he was always waiting for every time in my life that I had to make a very important decision. When he knew that I got into SS3, I wanted to take a JAMB form. He kept saying if I don't school across the Niger, he was not going to sponsor me to university. And I'm like, did you even sponsor me in boarding house in the first place? That became a war between himself, and my mom. That if I did not feel any university in the East, he was not going to sponsor my education. Of course, I filled the first JAMB form. I did not pass JAMB. And I remember that I got to a point where my dad would always call me to come and see him outside, or say, oh, right at this point I had the small phone I was using. He would call and say, oh, he's around, I should come and meet him so and so place. And my mom would keep shouting, okay, I was always just in the middle of their arguments, their fights. Deep down inside of me, I wanted my father. But the fact that I'd already developed hatred for him, and I'm like, okay, let me just go and see this man. And I'll go. And my mom will say, that means that when you're supposed to open your mouth and talk and rake, you will not rake. How would you, at least they are grown enough to make decisions now, how would you go and see your father outside? Why can't you tell him to come and see you in the house? So at that point, I didn't even know what to do. I didn't know the right thing to do. But I was going to see him. And I remember that on 2 occasions I'd gone to meet him, and then he was with the other woman, and I just got pissed off. Like, every time I wanted to go and see him, I wanted to have a conversation with my father and talk to him and say, maybe come back home or something, or I miss you. Just have that word that what is going on, what happened. At least I'm old enough to ask you questions now, but I never had that opportunity to have that conversation with him. And of course, that bond wasn't there anymore. The hatred was profound. I was angry at the fact that under your watch I was abused sexually. He wasn't responsible for anything. He wasn't part of any major part of my life. It was just like I didn't even have a father anymore. But he was always using me to show off to people. Even in the village, he would tell people, have you seen my first daughter? She's so beautiful. She looks like me. And when people see me, because there was an Igbo community, when people see me in Ibadan, they will say, and in Igbo, they will say, this one is the real child of Annie, and all of that. I was so pained. The fact that I saw how my mom struggled, to bring us up, to make sure that we had a good life. And in my head, I'm like, but this man is not dead. Like, what would have happened, or what kind of jazz would they have used on him that made him just abandon his family? I was just angry at the whole thing. So getting into university, of course, finally I told him that I got admission. I wanted to study law. I chose in English. He said, no, do I want to be a teacher like my mom, blah blah blah, I should choose medicine. Or I said I did not do science. So I went into university, and all of this were happening. At the point I realized that my dad was actually spying on me, sending people to spy on me to be sure I was in school. And I'm like, I don't understand. Why would you be spying on me to be sure that I was in school? And of course, at the point of getting to university, I started attending a particular fellowship. I was just angry at my dad. In fact, I practically used to pray that the man will even die. That let's just know that he's gone, he's dead, and then I don't have a father. I remember that our campus pastor was preaching about forgiveness, and I was really hot because I will not forget that every time he calls when he's at the village, he'll tell me I should speak to my younger ones. In my head, I'm like, why would I even speak to these ones? Like, you're sharing my father with me, so why would I even love you? Why would I have a relationship with you? And he preached about forgiveness, and I was really bitter. And I remember what he said was that if you're holding somebody in your heart, and whoever the person is, your parents, your friends, once you have bitterness in your heart, you're not going to progress in life. You won't move forward. You're going to limit yourself from becoming who you really want to be. At that point, it was as if something just melted in my heart. And then he mentioned that there's somebody that is here, you're hungry at your dad, you're just angry, like you practically ate him. That you're at the point where if you even have an opportunity to kill or stab him, you will stab that man. I was already at that point. In fact, I remember that the reason I chose law was so that I could become a lawyer and sue my father to court and put him in prison. That was one of the major reasons why I went to study law. Because of all the things he did to us, of all the pain he made us go through, of all the things he did to me as his daughter, and then the height of it was abandoning me. And my best course in law was then, I was doing diploma in law in Olabisi University, was human rights. I took it like, this man, I will deal with you. I had it in mind. I will deal with you for the fact that you laid your hands on my mom. I will deal with you for the fact that you were not a responsible father. As in, I had so many accusations against my father. I had said that I know that pata in the next 7 years I'll become a lawyer, and then I'll now charge him to court and for impersonation, because at that point too, my dad would call his siblings and tell them that he wanted to buy me something, and they will send it to him, and it will not get to me. It will give the other woman's children. So I had just so many things to be angry at him for. But thankfully, the law did not work out because I could not further my law. Like Nigerian universities, NUC disapproved the course in OAU. Then we had to change our course. I had academic issues. I left school. He started taunting me and he was saying, "Oh, I already knew that this school that he wanted to go to, it wasn't as if we were going to actually finish the school." He was telling me, he told me that when he had a friend that wanted to start a private university, why didn't I come there? If I had come there, I won't be going through all of this. And just a lot of things just taunting me as a growing teenager, as a growing lady in her early 20s. I was still a teenager. I wasn't even yet 20. I had just too many taunts in me, and I remember that I told him that he should never call my number again. But when I heard this pastor talk about forgiveness, I thought I'd forgiven him, because in my mind, like, oh, I've given my life to Christ. Whatever he wants to do, he should do. And to the point where I realized that my dad, of course, we used to be Catholic before he left, and then we changed church when he left. I got to know that he entered into some occultic realm. And going to the spiritual path like this, I've been the one he has been dropping my name, using me to of course, a lot of things that when I became spiritually inclined, I got to know. I was revealed to me, not like nobody told me, that your name has been taken to altars that you've not even got into. And I'm like, again, this man. So a whole lot of reasons for me to just hate him. But when I heard that message and that man said, whatever it is your father has done to you, just let go, forgive him. And that the Holy Spirit says he should say to me that even if it's 2 months of conversation, of checking up on me, whether it's bad, whether it's wicked, I should just keep checking up on this man. It was a tough decision, because I remember that day I cried. I'd seen people happy with their parents. I've seen people talk about their fathers, how they are close to their dad. I'm like, I wish I was in this position. 2 weeks after, of course, it was not a spontaneous thing, but 2 weeks after, when I searched my spirit and I felt like I think I've gotten to a place where I can actually forgive this man, I called him and I told him that I forgive you. And I remember that when I called him, the first thing he asked was that, what do you need? And I laughed. And he said, oh, you're laughing. That's strange. Because he already knew the kind of conversation we used to have. And then I told him, I said, I know you've hurt me. And I know because you're my father, you might not want to admit it, that you've done a whole lot to me. And you've damaged me in ways you cannot imagine. And I told him, I said, I forgive you for everything you've done. For the hurt or whatever you put us through in the family. For not taking care of me, I forgive you. For leaving the house, I forgive you. And I will never forget that. I know my dad can be very heady and adamant. I heard him shed a tear on the phone. And he kept saying, Uzwamaka, I'm sorry. You cannot understand. I wish I could get myself out of where I found myself right now. But I'm really sorry. I didn't understand what that meant. But somehow I think I knew, because I already had that consciousness of the fact that he had gone into some occultic realms. And I was the one to suffer for it. And a few months after that forgiveness story started, he would call and say he wants to check up on me. We're having conversations. We started becoming friends again. He will ask, oh, so do you have a boyfriend now? Is anybody toasting you? Of course, it wasn't easy for me to get back to that place of having that conversation, because someone has been out of my life for over 11 years And you know, just coming back to that place of conversation, I can't remember if I told him that I actually can't remember what you look like. I only know that I have a picture of you, and he promised that, oh, he's going to come and greet me very soon, that we'll hang out and all that. But that never happened, because just I think 4 months after the forgiveness and we talking, he will call me, he will tell me to talk to my half sisters. And I remember I kept saying, please, whatever happens, just know that they love you, and whatever happens was not their fault. I need you to love them just like the child that you had, that he knows that I have the capacity to love beyond the what I've gone through, and he was sorry for all that he did. He fell sick, of course, from the Wakajubo. He fell sick, he got poisoned. Everybody knows the Igbo African story. He got poisoned, and he was really, really sick. I remember that he was calling me. He would keep telling me that I should please, whatever happens, I should make sure that I don't neglect my half sisters. He kept saying that word, and he would tell me, tell your mom that I love her. I said, oh, okay. But it was difficult for me to deliver that kind of message. If not, I would be slapped. So, and by January, the 4 months after January, he died, because the last time I spoke to him was like a week before his birthday, and I could barely hear what he was saying. So he just told me I should not worry, he'll be fine, that nothing is going to happen to him, and he passed on.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching this particular story. Don't worry, the second part is going to be released on Sunday night. I also want to say thank you to Mrs. Janet Aladabi, because she offered to share 2 of her stories. The first one, which quite a number of you have watched, and if you haven't, please go watch it. It's on a waiting journey, and now she's talking about forgiveness. I know that some of us have people in our lives that we find it so difficult to forgive because of the things that they've done. Logically, you shouldn't forgive, but forgiving people is in accordance to the word of God. The Bible says that if we do not forgive those that have hurt us, He's not going to forgive us. So we cannot expect God to forgive us while we hold some people back in our hearts. Do you understand? So please, I pray that this video, that this part 1 that you've watched right now, is going to transform you. It's going to help you to begin a journey. And if you have things that you'd like to share, please put in the comment section. Please reach out to me in the comment section. Please subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on Sunday night. Mwah! Love you guys. Bye.